A thunderstorm worthy of a Hollywood blockbuster broke out near the city of Al-Muzahmiyya in the province of Riyadh. Lightning tore the sky apart. Thunder roared so loudly that the walls of houses shook, and locals say that it was the most powerful storm in recent years. The wind reached speeds of 80 kilometers per hour, tearing down billboards and breaking trees. Emergency services did not sit idly by. Rescuers went out to help stranded drivers, and utility crews restored torn power lines. Social networks exploded with videos of lightning striking directly into sand dunes, a mesmerizing but frightening sight. We remain in Riyadh, but we are moving to Al-Ramal. A hailstorm passed here that shocked everyone. Hail the size of golf balls, and in some places the size of a chicken egg, fell on the city. Cars were dented, house windows cracked, and streets turned into ice rinks. Meteorologists say that this is an anomaly for the region caused by a rare collision of cold and warm air masses. Rescuers and police quickly blocked roads to avoid accidents, and utility workers are removing tons of ice from the streets. Residents are removing piles of hail up to half a meter high. They have never seen anything like this here. Now, South Korea. A fire engulfed one of the ancient temples. Presumably it was the Haeinsa temple, famous for its wooden Tripitaka tablets. The fire broke out, and despite the desperate efforts of firefighters, part of the historic building burned to the ground. The cause is still unclear, perhaps a short circuit or an unextinguished candle. More than 50 firefighters and 10 vehicles fought the flames, but a strong wind fanned the flames. Rescuers evacuated monks and tourists, and locals gathered at the temple praying for its salvation. The damage is estimated at millions, and this is a huge loss for the country's culture. Let's move to Japan. The Sakurajima Volcano on the island of Kyushu has woken up with renewed vigor. A column of ash 4 kilometers high burst out of the crater, and hot lava began to flow down the slopes. The Japan Meteorological Agency raised the alert level to the 4th, prohibiting people from approaching the volcano closer than 2 kilometers. Rescuers evacuated about 300 people from nearby villages, and seismologists warn new tremors are still possible. Ash has already covered the streets of Kagoshima, and residents are putting on masks to protect themselves from the stifling air. Another disaster in Japan. A forest fire is raging in the city of Imabari on the island of Shikoku. The fire broke out and burned out more than 200 hectares of forest. Dry weather and strong winds turned the fire into a real disaster. More than 150 firefighters, dozens of vehicles, and 3 helicopters are dropping water, but so far they have not been able to cope with the fire. Rescuers have evacuated about 50 families from suburban areas, and authorities are urging residents not to make fires. Smoke can be seen for tens of kilometers, and environmentalists are concerned about the local fauna. Now Spain! A hailstorm has passed through the Catalan town of Santa Coloma de Farners, leaving behind an ice cover up to 20 centimeters thick. Hail fell, damaging cars, breaking windows, and even breaking through the roofs of barns. Locals are calling it an ice apocalypse. Emergency services are working non-stop. Rescuers are helping victims, and road crews are clearing roads. Meteorologists say that this is the result of an abnormal cold front from the Atlantic and are warning of more precipitation. Brazil is also in the spotlight. Heavy rains hit Teresina, the capital of the state of Piauí. Rivers overflowed their banks, flooding more than 200 houses. The water rose a meter, and the streets turned into seething streams. Rescuers evacuated about 500 people in boats and helicopters, and the authorities deployed temporary shelters in schools. The city's mayor declared a state of emergency, and meteorologists predict even more rain. Residents share videos of cars being carried away by the current, an eerie sight. In Italy, the Stromboli Volcano continues to excite minds. It has become more active. Ash emissions began, and hot stones flew out of the crater, some of which fell into the sea, causing a mini tsunami. The height of the ash column reached 2 kilometers. Rescuers are patrolling the coast, ready to evacuate the island's residents, and scientists are recording frequent tremors. Despite the danger, tourists are filming the eruption from boats, a risky but impressive show. We return to Saudi Arabia. Riyadh is drowning in floods. Torrential rains turn the streets into rivers. The water rose to the knees and in some areas to the waist. Cars were stuck in the streams and the basements of houses were flooded. Rescuers pulled people out of their houses in boats and the police blocked the main highways. Meteorologists say that 80 millimeters of precipitation fell. This is a month's norm. The authorities promised to help the victims, but for now the city is paralyzed. We moved to Argentina to the city of Comodoro, Rivadavia, where a real water apocalypse began. Torrential rains fell on this oil center with such force that the streets turned into seething rivers. The water rose to 1.5 meters, flooding more than 300 houses and dozens of stores. Landslides caused by soil erosion blocked key roads, cutting off the suburbs from the center. Rescuers are working at their limit. They have already evacuated 450 people, including families with children trapped on roofs, using inflatable boats and helicopters. The city mayor called it the worst flood in recent years and declared a state of emergency. Drone videos show how the currents carry away cars like toy boats. Meteorologists say that a cyclone from the Atlantic is to blame, and the rains may continue. Now the Mecca region in Saudi Arabia is a sacred land where a real drama has unfolded. Powerful storms brought hurricane winds of up to 100 kilometers per hour and tons of hail. In the Ranyah region, an ice cover up to 30 centimeters thick fell. Imagine the desert turned into an ice kingdom. The roads were blocked, cars got stuck, and pilgrims heading to the shrines found themselves in trouble. Emergency services have thrown all their forces into helping. Rescuers in SUVs and helicopters are delivering food and warm clothes to those stuck, and road crews are raking up hail with bulldozers. Social networks are full of videos of local children making snowmen out of hail, an unusual sight for the desert. Scientists say that this is an anomaly due to climate change, and the authorities are already allocating millions for rescues to stop the advance of the Gobi Desert. Sandstorms that used to choke neighboring cities have decreased by 30%, and oases with lakes and birds have appeared in once dead areas. Farmers are already sowing fields with rice and wheat, and environmentalists are rejoicing. Hares and even rare antelopes have been spotted returning to the new forests. Rescuers have nothing to do with it. This is the work of millions of people and technology. China promises to double the green zone, proving that man can rewrite the rules of nature. A thriller has unfolded on the Defriz Peninsula in Primorye, Russia. A crack has appeared on the ice of the Amur Bay, which has grown to 1.5 kilometers and continues to expand. Fishermen who were catching herring there, and their catches reached 1/1200 pieces at a time, found themselves trapped on torn-off ice floes. Hundreds of men showed ingenuity. They tied ropes together, made rafts out of the ice floes, and rowed to the shore like real sea wolves. Emergencies Ministry rescuers pulled out another 70 people on boats and helicopters, including those who clung to their fishing rods until the very end. One of the fishermen took a video of the ice floe cracking underfoot. Goosebumps. Scientists say that this is due to the abnormally warm winter and underwater currents. Now the area is cordoned off and rescuers are patrolling the bay so that no one risks returning for their catch. Nature put on a show in Gibraltar. A waterspout was spotted off the east coast. A giant column of water 50 meters high swirled right above the sea. Fishermen and tourists froze with cameras, and the wind drove this whirlwind toward the shore at a speed of 60 kilometers per hour. Fortunately, it dissipated a couple of 100 meters from the land before it could cause any harm. Rescuers and coast guards were on hand patrolling the coast, and authorities urged locals not to approach the water. Scientists say this is rare for the Mediterranean. A collision of warm air with cold currents gave rise to this mini tornado. A video of the tornado is already going viral on TikTok. Nature knows how to attract attention. Tragedy in South Africa. A plane crashed at an air show in Pretoria. An ace pilot was performing aerobatics, but something went wrong on a turn. The plane crashed into the ground and burst into flames right in front of the stands. Thousands of spectators screamed in horror, and rescuers and medics rushed to the crash site. Unfortunately, the pilot, an experienced pilot with 20 years of experience, died on the spot. The cause is still a mystery. Either an engine failure or a control error. Firefighters extinguished the wreckage and the police cordoned off the area for an investigation. The show's organizers canceled the remaining performances, and people are already arguing on social networks. Is it worth risking lives for the sake of a spectacle? In the U.S. state of Ohio, the legendary Cedar Point amusement park, a mecca for adrenaline junkies, caught fire! The fire broke out in the area of the wooden roller coaster, and the flames engulfed the 60-meter-high attraction. 5,000 visitors were evacuated in panic, and 10 fire crews and a helicopter with water rushed to put out the fire. One of the oldest roller coasters was badly damaged. Only charred beams remained. The cause? Presumably sparks from an overheated generator. Rescuers are checking the area to rule out new outbreaks, and the park owners promise to restore the legend. Fans are already crying on Twitter. It was their favorite attraction. A disaster has happened in Ecuador. A suspension bridge in the province of Loja collapsed right in the middle of the rainy season. The structure connecting two villages could not withstand the pressure of the overflowing river. The cables snapped and the bridge collapsed into the water, taking the lives of 4 people. 2 more people are missing, and rescuers are diving into the muddy streams hoping to find survivors. Locals say that the bridge was 30 years old and had long been in need of repair, but the authorities dragged their feet with the renovation. More than 50 people, military firefighters and volunteers, are clearing away the rubble and strengthening the banks to avoid new collapses. Video from the scene is like scenes from a disaster movie. The river is seething and the bridge debris is sticking out of the water. Turkey is experiencing a snow shock. Central Anatolia and the eastern regions, from Ankara to Van, are covered with snowdrifts up to 1.2 meters high. Roads have turned into ice traps. Hundreds of cars are stuck in traffic jams, and entire villages are cut off in mountainous areas. Rescuers are delivering food and medicine on snowmobiles and helicopters, and road services are clearing the roads. In Ankara, children are making snowmen, and farmers are in panic. Their harvest is at risk. Meteorologists blame an Arctic cyclone and promise that the snowfalls will continue. A video from Istanbul showing snow falling right onto the Bosphorus has already gone viral.